The night before marrying Lucas, my family declared bankruptcy. He loomed over me, umbrella in hand, his gaze cold as I sat drenched in the downpour. I reached for his pant leg, but he recoiled in disgust. "Amelia, do you know how utterly repulsed I am by your touch?" That was when it hit me. Because of my family's status, his parents had forced him to cater to me all along. Eventually, I left. Yet he has been hunting for me like a madman since. When we met again, his eyes bloodshot, he reached out to grab my hand. I coldly said, "Don't," I murmured coldly. "You'll disgust me." Thud. My grip loosened, and the bag hit the ground with a heavy thump. I stood frozen in disbelief before the framed photo displayed on the living room's television cabinet. In the photo, a teenage boy had his arm around a girl's shoulder, both dressed in matching blue and white school uniforms and beaming with equally radiant smiles. The man in the photo was my fiancé Lucas, and the young woman leaning into his shoulder was my best friend Evelyn. "Why did you have to come here and embarrass yourself?" A mocking laugh sounded behind me. It was Lucas's mother who spoke, her voice laced with mockery. She glanced at the photo on the TV cabinet, then smiled sweetly. "Lucas and Evelyn are a perfect match, wouldn't you agree?" Lucas's mother, who once took my hand so gently, now had the audacity to ask whether Lucas and Evelyn made a good match. When I remained silent, Lucas's mother added pointedly, "Now that your family is bankrupt, Lucas no longer has to force himself to be with you." My mind reeled. "What do you mean he is no longer forced to be with me?" "I came to see Lucas today because the company's capital chain has been broken for some time, but Dad kept it from me to spare me the worry. I need Lucas to help me since we're getting married soon and we're about to become family. From now on, I've got you covered," he vowed during our engagement. "Whatever comes our way, just keep your eyes on me. I'll handle the rest." I believed every word without a shred of doubt. I've known Lucas since we were 6, making it 18 years now. He has always been gentle and attentive, taking every small matter I brought up to heart. My greatest wish for as long as I can remember has been to marry Lucas and become his wife. I left the living room in a daze. The family butler, whom I'd affectionately addressed as uncle for over a decade, opened the door for me. His eyes met mine with a trace of heartache and sorrow. I managed a weak smile. No wonder Lucas hasn't contacted me recently. I assumed he was preoccupied with work, but it was all because my family faced bankruptcy so he could rid himself of me now that my family was bankrupt. As I stepped out of the house, the rain was pouring down. I walked into the pouring rain, and within moments, my clothes were drenched. Halting abruptly, I habitually glanced up at the second-floor balcony of Lucas's bedroom. A single glance rooted me to the spot in shock. On the balcony, the tall man stood against the storm, embracing the petite woman tightly as they locked in a passionate kiss, heedless of the thunder and torrential rain around them. The torrential rain obscured my sight until I could no longer distinguish between the downpour and my own tears streaming down. Through the downpour, I could barely make out his figure clutching her desperately, devouring her lips with reckless abandon. We officially started dating when we were 18. Lucas mentioned, "I don't like excessive physical contact with people." So the most intimate thing we had throughout our relationship was a kiss on the forehead. So he was capable of kissing someone like this. He simply despises me. He didn't want any physical closeness with me. Even that forehead kiss must have been unbearable for him. On the second-floor balcony, Lucas let go of the girl with cheeks still flushed from their kiss, his eyes falling upon the figure standing drenched and disheveled in the downpour. "Lucas." "Amelia's here," Evelyn murmured, her voice laced with artificial worry. Evelyn looped her arm through Lucas's, her innocent features clouded with concern. "She's getting soaked," she murmured sweetly. "Shouldn't we fetch her an umbrella?" My feet were pinned in place. I wanted to flee, yet my body refused to budge. I stood there in disarray, watching as the villa door reopened. There stood Lucas, holding a black umbrella with his arm around Evelyn, as they made their way toward me. Even from a distance, I could still make out the expression on Lucas's face, cold, detached, and utterly emotionless. He had always been so kind and courteous around me. This was the first time I'd seen him wear such a cold mask. "Amelia, you should get out of the rain," Evelyn offered with feigned concern, extending her umbrella toward me as I glared at her deceitful smile. Her family prioritized sons over daughters, and with her gentle nature, I'd stood up for her countless times growing up. I treated her as if she were my own sister, and this is how she repays me. Spare me the act. Lucas narrowed his eyes, hissing, "Amelia, don't you dare refuse common courtesy. This is Evelyn showing you kindness." "Kindness?" I sneered, as if she'd said something utterly ridiculous. This is her idea of kindness? Stealing someone's fiancé? Lucas furrowed his brow. "Even without Evelyn, I still wouldn't have chosen you." My eyes stung. Though I'd already heard the truth from Lucas's mother moments ago, hearing the words from his own lips tore a fresh, jagged wound in my chest. The pain was so intense I was left gasping for air. Why are you doing this to me?" I lunged forward and shoved Lucas with all my strength. As they stumbled backward, I staggered and collapsed straight to the ground. Evelyn gasped and darted forward to assist me. I wrenched my hand away, and her eyes brimmed with tears as though she were the one who'd been wronged. My heart would shatter every time I saw her like this before. A bitter smile twisted my lips. I must have been blind. Lucas stood beneath the umbrella, his gaze cold and detached as he looked down at me. Through the haze of my tears, I thought I glimpsed a flicker of that familiar tenderness from the past. I was reaching out to clutch at his trouser leg. "I don't want to marry him, I'll step aside, but please, just help my father." He wrenched himself away in disgust and anger, as if her touch were poison. "Amelia, do you have any idea how revolting it feels just to be touched by you?" His icy, hateful gaze pierced like a blade, thrusting and twisting through my chest. The agony tore through me, distorting everything around into unrecognizable fragments. "All my life, I've been denied even the freedom to choose my friends. If you were ever displeased, my mother would beat me the moment I stepped through the door. You've been up on your pedestal for decades, now it's your turn to rot at the bottom. Not long ago, my family used to be the richest family in Yunqing. My mother died from amniotic fluid embolism during childbirth, so my father, worried that I might feel neglected, chose never to remarry. He treasured me dearly and was renowned throughout Cloud City as a father with an unwavering devotion to his daughter. Therefore, many people tried to get on his good side by sucking up to me first. I've had everything since the day I was born, so their efforts never fazed me. But I never imagined that along with money and gifts, they would go as far as offering a human being as a gift. Even a 6-year-old boy. After dominating the business world for over a decade, my father would have never anticipated such a thing. He was so convinced that Lucas was good to me that over the years, he supported the Lucas family's business ventures and treated Lucas as his own son. He simply wanted me to marry into the Lucas family so that they would take good care of me. Never would I have imagined. They were all just ungrateful wolves. I stumbled out of Lucas' yard and trudged through the pouring rain under the dim glow of streetlights. All of a sudden, a pair of headlights came into view, heading straight for me. I trudged forward until the vehicle pulled up beside me. Freezing mid-step, a single glance confirmed this wasn't the Lucas family's car. Even now, I was still clinging to foolish hopes about Lucas. God, I was utterly pathetic. As I turned to leave, the driver's door swung open. A man clutching a navy umbrella emerged, circled the hood, and came to a halt beside me. I didn't recognize him until he was right in front of me. It was the one person I'd never gotten along with since childhood, Oliver Sue. I lowered my head and muttered weakly, "I'm not in the mood for your teasing today." Oliver and I grew up in the same gated community, clashing spectacularly since childhood. Our feuds became so notorious that event hosts would deliberately seat us separately during later gatherings. After graduation, he moved overseas, supposedly to oversee his family's French branch. He came all the way back from France just to laugh at me in this state. Just my arch nemesis from all those childhood battles. Oliver frowned. "You think that's what I am all along?" I hadn't seen him in 2 years. Now he looked irritatingly polished, radiating a newfound maturity that had dulled his old boisterous swagger. I nodded, "MHM." Oliver let out a frustrated chuckle. "Get in." I eyed him warily. Why did he want me to get into the car? Was he planning to shut the door just to make sarcastic remarks at me properly? He said exasperatedly, "If you don't get in, I'm not giving your family the loan." Hearing this, I swiftly yanked the car door open and settled into the passenger seat. I don't know whether Oliver is deceiving me. But right now, no one is willing to lend us money to get through this crisis, and Oliver has been the only one who stepped up to offer help so far. I followed Oliver to his riverside penthouse. I'd been here several times before since I was the first to set my sights on this place, but Oliver pulled some strings and snatched it up before I had the chance. Back then, I was just a college junior. The moment I heard the news, blood rushed to my head and I stormed into Oliver's classroom. He had just stepped out of class when I dragged him off in front of everyone and punched him. I glanced around, reluctantly admitting to myself that he'd decorated the place impressively. I muttered under my breath that his aesthetic sense was actually on point. Money. The moment he shut the door, I blurted out, I can match the bank's interest rates. I'll pay you back properly." Oliver sauntered to the couch and settled into it, while I trailed after him with cautious steps. If it weren't for needing to borrow money, I'd rather die than be caught dead putting on this act in front of Oliver. But the company was more important. It was my father's lifelong effort, and I couldn't just watch it crumble. Oliver tapped his fingers rhythmically against his knees while I barely dared to breathe, waiting in tense silence for his response. "I don't need your petty interest." He studied me with deliberate calm, fingers still drumming the armrest. I couldn't quite read the look in his eyes. "You don't even want to lend me money, but you still asked me to come here. Are you just messing with me?" I snatched a cushion and slammed it forcefully against his chest. Same old Oliver. Still as infuriating as ever. Furious, I turned to storm out, but the moment I stepped forward, my foot caught on something. The world spun around me as I collapsed backward. I landed on the couch, or rather, right on top of Oliver. "What's in your pocket? Are you trying to take advantage of me or something? Hiding a weapon?" I waved my arms frantically a few times, but couldn't find enough purchase to lift myself off. Not only that, but I kept collapsing back down each time. A voice growled from behind me, thick with restraint, "Amelia, if you move again, you won't like what happens next." The moment he spoke, I realized what was happening. My face flushed with mortification all the way to the tips of my ears. You pervert." I was gritting my teeth so hard they might crack when it hit me what Oliver had just said. My face froze. I twisted around and pinned Oliver beneath me in one fluid motion, my hand braced against the sofa. Oliver seemed startled by my sudden movement. "What the hell are you doing?" he demanded. I beamed at him with what I believed was a sweet smile, not realizing how utterly creepy it came across to Oliver. "So, does this mean you'll lend me the money now?" I had Oliver firmly pinned in that moment. The staggering extent of his wealth sent a shock through me, yet I maintained my composure, swallowing back my anxiety as I deliberately accentuated the coy tilt of my lips. Oliver snapped through clenched teeth, "Amelia, get off me. Mr. Sue, be magnanimous and overlook my past behavior. I'll never cross you again. Please, I need this money." I stared at him with pleading eyes. My tightening grip felt dangerously intense, yet I refused to release him. If he denied me, I'd force myself on him and take compromising photos as leverage. "Amelia, you think I can't deal with you?" Before I could even process his words, he had already flipped me onto the sofa and pinned me down. He lowered his head, his gaze blazing with smoldering desire. "Fuck," I muttered under my breath. I never thought that bastard Oliver actually had the hots for me. No wonder he offered to lend me money before bringing me back here. "How do you plan to handle me?" My hand slipped under his shirt and landed on his washboard abs. Oliver hissed through his teeth. "Enough." He pinned my hand, frustration welling up inside me. If sleeping together could resolve the financial crisis, I wouldn't hesitate for a second. I used to care deeply about preserving my innocence, believing I should save my whole self for Lucas. But now, nothing matters more than getting the money to help Dad through this crisis. With a determined clench of my jaw and a tight squeeze of my eyelids, I pressed my lips against Oliver's in a clumsy attempt. But I used too much force and slammed into his lips. "Oh, are you trying to kiss me or break my teeth?" That hurt. I've never kissed anyone before, so how was I supposed to know? I tightened my arms around his neck, my voice trembling with desperation. "Oliver, just lend me the money. My father's lost 2 whole sizes since this started. I'll lend you the money. Get off me now." I immediately let go and raised my hands in surrender. Oliver rubbed the corner of his mouth where I split his lip. "I'll invest capital into your family's company. No repayment needed. The catch is you marry into the family." My pupils constricted in shock. "Why would you want to marry me? My family is facing bankruptcy. Why on earth would he propose a marriage alliance with me? Does he like me?" Talk about wishful thinking. Oliver rubbed his nose and drawled, "It's a hassle, really." I stared at him, speechless. "I'll handle the funding with your father. You talk to him about the marriage alliance. We'll go to your place tomorrow to get the household registry." So sudden? My tongue clicked in surprise, then it hit me something wasn't quite right. Wait, did I even agree to this? At the Lucas residence, Lucas stood on the second-floor balcony, gazing at the deserted driveway. It was finally over. He no longer had to pretend to want to see Amelia again. But the memory of Amelia's departure lingered stubbornly in his mind. Her clothes clung to her, outlining her well-defined curves. Suddenly, Lucas felt a surge of heat course through him, the very desire he had avoided out of disdain before. Now, there was a tinge of longing. However, given Amelia's family bankruptcy and her undying devotion to him, keeping her as a mistress wouldn't be difficult if Lucas ever desired. A sinister glint flickered in Lucas's eyes as he crushed the cigarette butt and strode back into the house. I stared at the crimson marriage certificate in my palm, then turned to look back at the marriage registry. Oliver's funds hit the company account in the wee hours, and before I knew it, Oliver had dragged me out of bed at the crack of dawn to head to the city hall. He acted like a man possessed. I couldn't even get a few more minutes of sleep. Where to now? I glanced at Oliver beside me, managing a more cordial expression than usual thanks to his timely financial infusion. Oliver remarked, his voice laced with a lazy drawl, "Keep smiling like that and you'll have me weirded out. Some people just can't handle a little niceness without getting all weird." I gave him a light kick on the calf. "Get in already." Oliver flashed a mischievous grin and threw his arm around my shoulders. "Now that's the spirit, Mrs. Sue." What do you mean, Mrs. Sue?" I shrugged off his arm, but Oliver slung it back around me instantly. "We're married, for God's sake. You won't even let me touch your shoulder?" "I gave you a chance yesterday," I said with a sarcastic smile, "and you didn't take it." Oliver's eyes lit up with mischief. "Didn't he have a proper title then, did we? Let us head home now." My eyes widened in shock. What on earth was he implying? Oliver bundled me into the car, driving all the way back to the penthouse where we'd stayed overnight. I slept in the master bedroom last night, but I had no idea where Oliver crashed. The moment the door shut, Oliver swept me off my feet and headed straight for the master bedroom, his movements fluid as though it were second nature. As far as I knew, he had never dated anyone. Maybe he met someone during his time in France? With his good looks, toned physique, and prestigious family background, it would have been strange if he hadn't been in relationships. It didn't take long to realize. Oliver actually hadn't been in a relationship before. Staring at Oliver's dumbfounded expression, I realized that under normal circumstances, I would have mocked him mercilessly. Yet here I was, all I could manage was a flushed face. He hadn't even made it through the door when he was already done. "I feel like I'm done for." Accident. Oliver gritted through clenched teeth, tilting his head to recapture my lips. Watching his utterly defeated expression, I instinctively ruffled his hair in reassurance. "Don't worry, there's a first time for everything," I said soothingly, patting his arm. Oliver muttered, "Sounds like you've got plenty of experience." For some reason, his words carried a sour edge so much that a dull ache throbbed in my temples. Before I knew it, I sank my teeth into Oliver's shoulder. "You bit me?" Oliver froze, utterly stunned. He must never have guessed that I never once kissed Lucas during my 6-year relationship with him. Because Lucas had always hated me. A pang of heartache rose at the thought of Lucas. "If you ever dare to cheat, I'll have you castrated," I muttered. "Never. You're the only one I'll ever have, my wife," Oliver murmured. Oliver bent down and kissed my eyelids with gentle reverence. My heart fluttered. This was so out of character for Oliver. Soon, all coherent thought fled as Oliver showed me the difference between a fluke and his true capabilities. I was jolted awake again by the persistent ring of my phone. I lifted my aching arm with effort and pressed the phone to my ear. "Yeah?" My voice came out gravelly and raw. My voice came out hoarse and scratchy, my throat aching with every word. I cursed Oliver 1,000 times in my head. "It's me," Lucas's voice snapped me out of my grogginess. "What's he calling for now? Didn't he get enough of mocking me yesterday?" I demanded coldly, "What do you want?" Lucas's voice sharpened abruptly, "What's wrong with your throat?" I snorted, "How many years have you and Evelyn been screwing around behind my back? Never even shared a bed? And you have the nerve to ask me what's wrong?" Lucas's face turned grim. "Amelia, we haven't even called off our engagement, and you're already out there with another man? Lucas, have you completely lost your mind? You know damn well that marriage was just a calculated game. How dare you even mention it now?" Lucas snapped, "Cut the act, Amelia. I know you better than that." Was he calling me a prude? "I can help with your uncle's company, but you need to obey me." Lucas's voice was laced with a patronizing air of generosity. His words made no sense. What's that supposed to mean, obey him? My face drained of color as Lucas's meaning struck me. "You want me to be your mistress? Who the hell dares to call my wife a mistress?" The phone was snatched from my hand. I looked up to find Oliver's face etched with frost. I had never seen Oliver like this before. Really scary. The moment a man's voice came through the phone, Lucas's temple veins twitched and jumped. "Oliver, are you screwing my girl?" Oliver's lips curved into a smirk, though his eyes held a frosty glint. "We have a marriage certificate. It's official. Keep your delusions to yourself. How is my wife any of your concern?" Before Lucas could respond, a dial tone buzzed sharply in his ear. Lucas's face turned pitch black with fury. He hurled his phone against the floor, the screen exploding into jagged shards. "Lucas, what happened?" Evelyn walked in to find the shattered phone at her feet. And the man seated on the sofa radiated an oppressive tension. Lucas calmed his expression. "What brings you here?" Evelyn settled onto the sofa. "Your mother wanted me to check the wedding gowns. Maybe you should come down and take a look as well?" Lucas was momentarily dazed. "He called me out of the blue. It's not my fault," I stammered. Oliver's expression remained stormy. I nudged him with my foot, "What's with the grumpy face?" "He's insufferable," Oliver muttered, grabbing my foot and pinning me down. "See? You were blind back then." I recalled telling Evelyn in high school that I wasn't into guys with a tan and muscles. I preferred someone like Lucas, pale and lean. Oliver happened to overhear. With a mocking sneer, he called Lucas a scrawny chicken, all show and no substance. I immediately fired back with my own sarcastic retort. In the end, when words failed me, I just started hitting him, ending up scratching up his face pretty badly. Since childhood, Oliver had been a mischievous rascal who loved basketball, his sun-kissed skin glimmering like wheat fields. Back in high school, I once stumbled upon him changing clothes, and there they were, those damn irresistible 8-pack abs staring right at me. Actually, I did like him. I just couldn't resist poking at him, who told him to always run his mouth like that. Especially since he's quick with words. I never stood a chance in our arguments, and he never bested me in a fight. Oliver leaned in to kiss me. Having never been in a relationship, his skills left much to be desired. We were two clueless newbies clumsily exploring each other. After a moment, he pulled back and declared, "Tomorrow, we're going to Greece." Huh? Oliver flicked my forehead. Marriage means a honeymoon, doesn't it? I froze for a moment. When I mentioned wanting Greece for our honeymoon to Lucas before, he only grunted twice with his eyes still glued to his screen. How did you figure out I wanted to go to Greece? Oliver glanced at me sideways. You once promised to marry me and said we'd honeymoon in Greece. His voice held a tinge of resentment. Meeting his gaze, it suddenly came back to me, that declaration from when I was 4. Before turning 5, I'd practically been Oliver's shadow, tagging along after him wherever he went. But he never liked me back. During his 5th birthday party, our parents jokingly suggested setting up an engagement between us. Oliver shoved me and snapped, "I hate you. I'd never marry you." Devastated, I sobbed uncontrollably after returning home and stopped seeking him out entirely. Even the closeness between our families faded over time. You hated me back then. How come you remember such details? Oliver grabbed my face. You never let things go, do you? One little accidental shove and you acted like I didn't exist for years. Just accidentally? I asked skeptically. Oliver started to say something but stopped, and I noticed his ears turning red. I did apologize. When? I asked, puzzled. Then it clicked, and I gasped, that giant bear. I thought Evelyn was the one who sent it, since she was the one standing there with the bear at the door. I even wondered how she had carried it over. Oliver retorted with a mix of frustration and concern, I warned you Evelyn was trouble, but you wouldn't listen. I've known Evelyn since kindergarten. Oliver never liked her, though he constantly bad-mouthed her to me, but I always thought he was just making a fuss over nothing. Looking back now, I realize I was such an idiot. Better late than never, right? I grinned sheepishly. Fortunately, Oliver isn't one to hold a grudge. Despite me hitting him all these years, he's still willing to help our family through our difficulties. The next day, I hopped on a plane headed for Greece. I wanted to stay and help Dad, but he insisted he had everything under control and told me to go enjoy myself. Before boarding the plane, my phone was flooded with news about the Lucas and Yen families announcing their upcoming marriage alliance. The media was hyping up their romance online. 2. Used romance instead of love as it better suits media narratives. 4. Adjusted sentence structure to active voice for natural flow and context. My existence as the former fiancé had completely vanished from the public's attention. Exactly as I wanted. I just hoped to never cross paths with them again. It was already afternoon when I arrived in Athens. After dinner with Oliver, I settled into a lounge chair on the hotel terrace and enjoyed the mesmerizing sunset over the Aegean Sea. I prefer watching sunsets over sunrises, especially when the golden light spills over the azure sea. As the golden light spilled onto the azure sea, the view was utterly breathtaking. A few days later, we headed to the blue caves of Zakynthos for a diving trip. I've always loved diving, but Lucas had a fear of water due to nearly drowning once. So I rarely got to go. As we entered the water, Oliver took my hand. As we submerged into the crystal-clear azure waters, I felt instantly transported to a different realm. All the pent-up gloom in my heart evaporated like mist in an instant. I still have a bright future ahead of me. Lucas and Evelyn are merely fleeting figures in my life. There's no reason for me to hold a grudge against them. They were the ones in the wrong, not me. After being in Greece for about 2 weeks, my father called with some good news. The company has stabilized for now. At least it won't go bankrupt. As for whether we could reclaim the title of Yunqing's wealthiest family, that was up to my father. Around the same time, the announcement of my marriage alliance with Oliver was made public. Darling, what do I get for this? Oliver nuzzled his fluffy head into my shoulder. Over the past 2 weeks in Greece, Oliver has been acting like a completely different person. He has been sticking by my side all day long. Neither hitting nor scolding could make him change his ways. Scram, I need to sleep now. I pushed him aside and collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. Over the past 2 weeks in Greece, my days were divided between outdoor activities and vigorous nighttime workouts in bed. I'm completely wiped out. Let's get some sleep, darling. Oliver swiftly climbed into bed and ducked under the blankets. Lucas's hand tightened subconsciously around the glass. Amelia's sure rushing into things. Weren't she and Oliver always at odds? What's with the sudden marriage? Hunter swirled his wine glass, looking over at Lucas. Oliver's had a thing for Amelia since forever, right? How could they possibly end up together when every encounter turns into a battlefield? Hunter interjected, didn't he, you know? During freshman year, Oliver pounded 2 guys who were making comments about Amelia's figure behind her back until they were black and blue. So what if he likes Amelia? Anyway, Amelia's heart belongs to Lucas. Lucas, is Amelia marrying Oliver out of spite because you're getting married and she's upset with you? Lucas slammed his glass down with force. Amelia doesn't have feelings for him. Amelia's always been into you, we've all seen it. Lucas, do you really love Evelyn or Amelia? Marriage in families like ours is for life, you'd better be sure. One of the friends interjected cautiously, sensing the tension. Those in the room were well aware of Lucas's affair with Evelyn behind Amelia's back. Everyone had assumed Lucas and Evelyn would end up together in the long run. Lucas had been in an oppressively dark mood lately, especially today when news broke of Amelia and Oliver's marriage alliance. When Lucas entered the private room, he was shrouded in such a dark aura that he looked ready to murder someone. Lucas lifted his wine glass and drained it in one swift motion, his eyes glinting with icy intensity. She wouldn't dare marry another man. Noticing the tension, his friend quickly deflected. Your phone's ringing. Are you gonna answer it? I turned my face halfway from the pillow, muttering, don't answer it. I'm dead tired. It's Lucas again. It was only then that I noticed Oliver's usual devil-may-care demeanor had darkened with irritation. I have never understood why Oliver hates his guts. Honey, he's like a goddamn leech. This is ridiculous. I let out a resigned laugh. Go ahead and answer it. Oliver hit answer and put the phone to my ear. Amelia, my stomach is killing me. Lucas's drunken voice came through the receiver. I peeked at Oliver's clouded expression, his brows were furrowed deeply enough to crush a fly. I said coolly, if you have a stomachache, get a doctor. Now that half a month has passed, hearing Lucas's voice no longer stirred any emotion in me. Amelia, come get me. I need you here, please? Are you out of your mind? I was baffled. Have you lost your damn mind? I'm Amelia, the one you can't stand. If you're having a meltdown, go bother Evelyn. I'm with my husband and can't deal with this right now. I hung up without another word. Lucas stared blankly at the blackened screen, belated panic clawing at his chest. A pang of panic rose in his chest as the realization dawned on him she really got married. Lucas, what are you doing on the ground? Come on, get up. Evelyn hurriedly got out of the car and tried to pull Lucas to his feet. Get off me. Lucas shook off Evelyn's hand, her face a mask of stunned disbelief. Lucas. She uttered brokenly, her voice trembling. Evelyn asked, her eyes red-rimmed, Amelia is getting married, aren't you happy? Lucas remained silent. Go. Feeling better now? I set my phone aside and observed Oliver, whose expression had shifted from gloomy to slightly brighter. The one good thing about him was how he wore his heart on his sleeve. The only good thing about him was his inability to hide anything. Honey, what did you just call me? I frowned, pretending to be clueless. Called you what? Say it again. I don't remember anymore, Oliver. In the end, Oliver coaxed me into calling him husband repeatedly through playful yet persistent tactics. After a month in Greece, we flew to France, where Oliver took me around to all the places he had called home over the past 2 years. On our first day in France, I received a message from a fair-weather friend. The message mentioned that Lucas has been searching for me all over the capital city. It also mentioned that the marriage arrangement between the Lucas and Yen families had been called off, which took me by surprise. Wasn't it some undying love? Why was the engagement called off so abruptly? I wasn't in the mood to dwell on their drama and simply headed out with Oliver instead. After spending nearly a month in France, we returned to our home country to make preparations for the wedding. What I didn't expect was to see Lucas in France on the night before returning home. He looked weary from travel, a far cry from the polished young master he once was. The fiery red sunset cast its glow over the bustling crowd as our eyes met across the sea of people. He strode toward me through the crowd, and when his fingers nearly brushed my arm, I dodged away. "Don't touch me. You're disgusting." Lucas's face lit up with joy, but it quickly hardened as he took in my icy tone and distant expression. "Amelia, I've been searching everywhere for you." I laughed. "Looking for me? So I can attend your precious wedding with Evelyn?" Lucas shook his head frantically. "Amelia, I've missed you." I was wrong. I shouldn't have said those things that day. I called off the engagement. "Please, can we make this work?" His gaze was sincere, eyes overflowing with the tenderness and devotion I had longed for in vain before. "It's too late. Belated affection is cheaper than dirt. I am married now." I extended my hand, displaying the pigeon egg-sized pink diamond that adorned my finger. This was the ring Oliver had purchased at an auction, proposing to me under the Eiffel Tower, surrounded by a crowd. He said that even though we're legally married, we shouldn't skip the proper ceremonies. When I was with Lucas, he appeared caring, but in hindsight, his affection was only superficial. Especially after experiencing these 2 months of traveling with Oliver, I realized just how foolish I had been in comparison. "I know Oliver must have tricked you into this. If you just divorce him." Before Lucas could finish his sentence, Oliver suddenly knocked him to the ground with a punch, having just returned with bottled water for me. Lucas wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Oliver, you preyed on us when we were vulnerable, you lowlife." Oliver snorted. "Lucas, you've got some nerve. You clung to Amelia, reaping all the benefits from her family, yet still had the gall to play the saint. And you still screwed around behind her back." Noticing Oliver's simmering anger toward Lucas, I made no move to intervene as he threw punches. Amidst the chaos of their scuffle, I managed to land a solid kick on Lucas. The nerve of him humiliating me like that. He actually dared to call me disgusting. As the heiress of the wealthiest family in Yin City with both beauty and wealth, what man could possibly be beyond my reach? It's not like I forced him to be with me. How dare he put all the blame on me? "Okay, honey, that's enough. You don't want to get into trouble, do you?" Noticing Lucas was gasping for air with labored breaths, I hurriedly restrained Oliver. "All that muscle isn't just for show." Oliver crouched down, jabbing a finger at Lucas's face. "I'm letting you off today because of my wife. Try harassing her again and I'll beat you to death." Oliver's urge to punch Lucas had been simmering for days on end. Lucas had won Amelia's affection but failed to cherish it, and Oliver was seething with rage. Back then, no matter what he said, Amelia never believed him. As a child, his contradictory words had pushed Amelia away, and in the stillness of night, he would bury his face in the covers, crying with regret. Thankfully, she has finally returned to his side. "Amelia, please, don't call him like that." Lucas gazed at me pleadingly, his eyes filled with desperation. I paid no attention to his plea. Oliver was the one who hit him, but I still had to arrange a car to send him to the hospital. Oliver wrapped his arms around me, his gaze fixed coldly on Lucas crumpled on the ground in defeat. Just like that day back at Lucas's place. On the first day of my return home, Evelyn came knocking at my door. I didn't want to see her, but curiosity gnawed at me. Why had she betrayed me like this? After all, I'd known her far longer than Lucas. I told a servant to just get her some water, that's all. She was no longer my friend, so why would she expect any privileges in my home? She resorted to her delicate damsel in distress act from the past. Amelia, I'm sorry. You know I've never meant to hurt you. I was immune to that pitiful expression by now. You keep claiming you didn't want to hurt me, then what about your actions that scream otherwise? The photo I saw in Lucas's house must have been taken during our sophomore year. They had already been together, yet Lucas kept up his act of unwavering devotion to me, the same me who had confided every one of my girlish confessions to Evelyn. They're probably laughing at me behind my back right now. Evelyn bit her lip. Amelia, I don't have your privileged upbringing, nor a father who dotes on me, or even a childhood sweetheart who protect me. Lucas loves me and I love him. We're in love. I never protected you? A bitter laugh escaped me as I fired back at Evelyn's accusation. Where do you think my infamous reputation in the capital came from? Isn't it all because I was always the one defending you? I never truly understood that saying about how those who deserve pity often have their own flaws until now. Now I get it, that's exactly who you are. People go out of their way to help you, yet you show not an ounce of gratitude. Instead, you keep measuring yourself against them. I vented all my anger in one breath. Evelyn's tears began to stream down her cheeks. I coldly looked on as she wept. After crying for a while, her sobs subsided when I showed no reaction. Amelia, please, she begged, can you talk to Lucas? Ask him not to call off our engagement. Now my mother is forcing me to marry some twice-married man in his 30s. I arched an eyebrow. Weren't you two in love? Then what is there to persuade? What is there even to persuade? I couldn't stomach listening to Evelyn anymore. She operated under a completely self-contained logic. She acted like the ultimate victim with moral superiority in this world. I had the butler send her away before going back to reviewing the invitation designs. As the wedding preparations were nearly done, I received a call from Lucas's mother asking me to visit him at the hospital. She said Lucas had fallen ill. I told her to call a doctor and hung up coldly. I hadn't forgotten the sarcastic remarks she made back then. What reason did I have to go see Lucas now that he was sick? The very next day, Lucas' mother came to my doorstep. For a week I turned her away each day, yet she persisted in coming to my doorstep. Finally worn down by her relentless visits, I reluctantly went to the hospital. I was startled to see Lucas in the hospital. He had withered to a shadow of his former self, the hospital gown hanging off his gaunt frame like a deflated balloon. His sunken eyes, ringed with dark circles, seemed to retreat deeper into their sockets with every labored breath. Gone was the refined and courteous noble young master he once was. I've come to deliver your wedding invitation today. I placed an elegant invitation on the bedside table as he reached out and grasped my hand. He looked at me with bloodshot eyes, his voice trembling as he pleaded, Amelia, is there truly no chance left for us? I yanked my hand free. Did you ever consider there might be consequences when you called me disgusting? He had nothing to say. A flicker of regret across his gaze. So he did know how deeply those words had wounded after all. When you degraded me and expected me to become your mistress, did you ever consider there might still be a chance for us in the future? With every sentence I uttered, his face drained of color a shade more. Lucas, this self-pitying act won't work. Even if you dropped dead right here, I wouldn't bat an eye. I'll just think there's one less disgusting thing in the world. The light in Lucas's eyes utterly died out. I'm no saint, but for those I do care about, I risk my life without a second thought. Those I don't care about don't even get a wasted glance. Carrying my bag, I stepped out of the hospital and gazed up at the cerulean sky, vast and cloudless. The sky was a brilliant blue, cloudless and vast. Truly a perfect day. Darling. In the distance, a man in a tailored suit leaned against a car, waving at me. With a smile, I made my way over to him. Lucas's POV, the first time I met Amelia, she looked as delicate as a porcelain doll. Back then, there was this annoying kid always tagging along with her. He always managed to get Amelia fuming, stomping her feet in frustration, yet her eyes never left him. Apart from him, Amelia spent her time with only one other person, a girl her age. At first, I truly wanted to be friends with her. I was overjoyed when we held hands and played together for the first time. I thought to myself, how is there a girl as lovely as Amelia in the world? I'm going to marry her when I grow up. Later, when my parents realized my close bond with Amelia could secure advantageous connections with her family, they began subtly nudging me to win her favor. I hated it, but I had no choice. Gradually, I stopped visiting her home and avoided meeting her altogether. I felt like we had grown apart. She was the high and mighty one, and I was just a mere follower. As she grew older, she became even more beautiful with a lively personality, attracting many admirers. Everyone wanted to be around her. Especially that annoying Oliver, who clung to Amelia like a persistent shadow. During my sophomore year of high school, I entered a relationship with Evelyn. I never truly liked her, but our similarities fostered a sort of camaraderie between us. When I confessed to Amelia under my mother's urging at 18, her eyes lit up with joy as she said yes. At that moment, I was hit with a pang of regret. I intended to commit to Amelia wholeheartedly and end things with Evelyn, but when Evelyn burst into tears with her face streaked with misery, I ended up consoling her for hours. Without warning, she took off her clothes right in front of me. At 18, fueled by boundless passion, my heart's balance gradually tipped toward Evelyn. But I also relished how Amelia adored me. Amelia was radiant and cheerful, like a burst of sunshine. Whenever I looked at her, my spirits would inexplicably lift. For 6 years, I both basked in Amelia's goodness and wrestled with the guilt it brought. I refused to acknowledge the feelings I harbored for her. I could only convince myself to like Evelyn, force myself to believe I hated Amelia, insist that what I had with Evelyn was real love, and that I had never betrayed Amelia. When Amelia's family faced bankruptcy the year I turned 24, I realized the opportunity to free myself from her had finally arrived. But after she was gone, my world felt hollow. What do you mean you don't have to force yourself to be with me anymore? I began to consider bringing Amelia back, convinced that perhaps those intense emotions would subside once we got physical. After all, I'd never crossed that line with her during our relationship. I was shocked to discover Amelia was married, and to Oliver of all people. When I discovered that Oliver was the one she married, I knew it was over for me. Over the years, Oliver had been keeping a covetous eye on Amelia, and he would pounce at the slightest shift in her circumstances. But I refused to admit defeat. I swiftly ended the engagement with Evelyn since I never planned to marry her to begin with. Since Amelia refused to return, I tried to force her to yield through this approach. But she refused. I scoured every corner in search of her until finally locating her in Paris. The moment she referred to Oliver as her husband, my last shred of self-deception came crashing down. If she hadn't loved him, she couldn't have called him husband so affectionately. After returning home, I turned to heavy drinking, betting on her sympathy because she was always easy to win over, the most tender-hearted person I knew. But I didn't realize her tenderness was reserved only for the people she truly cared about. Amelia has been married for a decade now, renowned throughout Yunqing as part of the devoted couple she and Oliver make. They have a lovely daughter, whom I once caught a glimpse of from afar. I often wonder if only I hadn't succumbed to that damned pride and confessed my feelings to Amelia sooner, it would be me by her side now. Not too long ago, Evelyn reached out to me. She had been married off by her parents to a twice-married man a decade her senior, living a wretched life, and wanted me to rescue her from her plight. Deep down, I resented her. I refused, of course. Clutching the late-stage gastric cancer diagnosis report in my hand, I let out a bitter smile.